everybody. Welcome back to Daytime. Our next guest has watched the infirmed riding horses and blind men seeing. Is he a faith healer?
No, he's not. He's an investigator who looks into workers' compensation fraud. Though through his work, he has seen people walk with crutches one day and ride in a rodeo the next.
Paul Colbert's concern is that people just don't take workers' compensation fraud seriously, and it'll cost us more, all of us more, than we think in the long run.
Paul Colbert, good to have you here. How common is this?
More common than you would expect. For us, we see hundreds of videotapes per week, and about 78% of those show some form of fraud.
78%?
And whether
that is strikingly
now
high.
we're talking whether it's the little white lie or whether it's just full bore, you know. So, and that's kind of the exaggeration of the claim, so to speak.
And when you talk about some kind of fraud, what kinds of fraud?
Well, for us particularly, workers' comp fraud is certainly huge for us, but on the scope of everything, you're talking about liability, slip and falls within grocery stores, you're talking about the staged auto accidents, which we've clearly seen here locally. Also, just fraud in general is costing us roughly about 80 to 100 billion on a national scope. So, and of course that's passed down to us as the consumer.
How much surveillance goes into catching these people?
A significant amount. As you know, as we were talking earlier, there are cases that can go on for months, they can go on for years. It just depends on the amount of video that we have and how detrimental is it to either solving the crime or figuring out, is this the current alleged injury, is it real, is it legit? So it's really kind of playing cat and mouse until you actually catch the person when they're not on their A game.
And there's different levels, obviously, of fraud. And you work specifically with some of the more extreme levels. I think we have some video, too, of some of the cases that you've worked.
Barrel races.
And she was claiming to what, not be able to move?
She was receiving regular injections in her arm and neck, and we later were able to determine whether or not that was valid, which it's kind of, we'll leave it up to the...
What happens to these people once you prove that it's fraud?
It really depends. You know, it's such an overworked system, so not all the cases are prosecuted. The ones that are prosecuted, they will go up before the Department of Insurance. They'll figure out the amount of restitution. Will they spend jail time? Maybe. If they do, if it's just a little bit. It's such a low-risk, high-reward type crime for these people. So for them to continue to try and do it and do it successfully, it's clearly that's what they're doing.
People think this is a victimless crime, but it's not.
No, not at all. We all actually are footing the bill for this, and most people don't understand. On the average, it costs about $900 to $950 per year, and that's, you're going to see that through increased.
For each of us.
Right, for each of us personally. You're pulling that out of your pocket every year through cost of goods and services. Everything is going up. So liability with the grocery store, that means if they're paying high out on claims, then they're going to be charging it back, whether they get it through their food or other resources.
Ugh, makes you so mad.
Is there a line you can call? I mean, I don't...
Right, what do we do?
What do we do?
If we know that somebody else is committing fraud?
The best thing to do is contact the Department of Insurance fraud, and those individuals can take leads and tips and find out who the actual insurance carrier is for that particular workplace, and then they can further investigate it or hire a company such as Meridian.
All right, Paul Colbert, thank you very much.
Well,
Really interesting stuff.
Really interesting.